What is up, everybody? Mr. Curtis here. Welcome to our AP World session. This is a little cram review session on the Middle East. Kind of going region by region here just to take everything through 1200 to 2001, kind of breaking it down through each time period and kind of what's going on in each region. But this is on the Middle East. This is not all inclusive. Go back and watch some other videos. I keep saying that at the start of each one, but in case you're just starting right here. So here's the deal. First time period, circa 1200 to 1450, which is our time period of regional kingdoms and trade routes. The kind of theme here, especially in the Middle East, is this idea of Dar al-Islam, this idea of connection of Muslim people because of similar religious beliefs, the speaking of Arabic, and just kind of this connection that people who are Muslim during this time period feel. And Islam is going to be really spread along trade routes. If you remember, Muhammad is a merchant, and the Islamic world at this time is really at the center of trade. This area right here, which is this area between Baghdad and Damascus here that you can kind of see on the map, is really where the Indian Ocean trade route meets the Mediterranean Sea, meets the Silk Road. So all these trade routes are converging kind of in this AP world or global one concept of like Mesopotamia. So this is a center of trade. So there's a lot of merchant activity there. Muhammad's a merchant, so Muslims are naturally going to become merchants, and they're going to spread their religion along the way. So that's really kind of a key to a lot of this entire time period and the next time period for Islam. But in terms of the politically in this region of the Middle East, it's really fragmented. The Abbasid Caliphate, which was around a little bit before 1200 and just a little bit into 1200, is really going to fall. And then the Mongols are going to come in and overthrow this area, and then it's going to be fragmented. And a group of people is going to come in called the Seljuk Turks, who are going to come in and really kind of take a hold of this area by 1200. But we have it's just a lot of fragmentation in this time period. So it's not that kind of centralized rule that we see in a lot of other regions. By the end of this period, by 1450, the Ottomans are coming in, which we'll get to in a second. Again, this is the center of all trade. All the trade routes meet here, so there's a strong merchant culture. And if merchant culture is promoted, you're going to see a lot of trade, even though we're politically fragmented and it's not under the control of one specific government. Religiously in this region, almost the entire Middle East then and still today, and when I say Middle East, at least at this point, we're going to include North Africa in this, so everything north of the Sahara Desert. So kind of coming across here and to this region and to over here is all Sunni Muslim. The one exception to this where people are not primarily Sunni is in Persia, which is over here, and we'll kind of get into a little bit more of that in the next slide here, but that area is more Shia. So we have the Shias. Over here, we have almost everything else is Sunni. Now there are, don't get me wrong, there are Shia Muslims sprinkled in Sunni sections and vice versa, but for the most part. We also have this group of people called Sufis, and if you don't remember Sufis, these are, they can be Shia or Sunni, so it's not a branch of Islam, it's just a way of practicing. They are kind of mystical. They do the whirling dervishes, the twirl and pray. They also are big merchants. So these Sufis are going to leave their areas and travel throughout these trade routes to help spread Islam and also trade along the way. So Sufis are going to be a big promoter of Islam and the spread of Islam. Also, the kind of the key to a lot of the Middle East, besides the center of trade, is also there's a lot of technological advancements that are happening at this time. The caliphates, the Abbasid Caliphate, is really going to expand out, and it's going to take a lot of ideas from the areas that they're conquering. Egypt, Persia, Greco-Roman ideas are going to come back into this Islamic capital, Baghdad at the time, and they're going to take these ideas and they're going to expand on them, and they're going to kind of combine a lot of these things together, and there's going to be a lot of technological advancements. So one, we have ideas that are coming to the Islamic Empire. We have Chinese gunpowder, compass, astrolabe, shipmaking. This is like, keep saying this over and over again for this time period. We also have the Greco-Roman ideas, which have kind of been lost in the defragmented, decentralized Western Europe at the time, and are coming and being perfected and advanced in the Muslim Empire. We also have advances in math, geometry, thank them for geometry, algebra, thank them for algebra, and then science. We have pharmacology, surgical centers. There's just a lot of advancements going on here, and those advancements are going to spread as a result of missionary activity and merchant activity. Next time period, 1450 to 1750, we're looking at the gunpowder empires. We have two gunpowder empires in the Middle East. We have the Ottoman Empire, which is our large empire that is on 3 continents. We're in Southern Europe here. We're in Southwest Asia here and North Africa. So the Ottoman Empire is very large, and it's going to be centralized under the Sultan, which is a common theme here during these gunpowder empires. We're going to recruit people to work in the military through the Devshirme system. Those people are called Janissaries, and the Janissaries were Christian soldiers who were taken from their home and forced to be part of this standing Ottoman military, which is going to help it expand. It is a diverse empire. We're talking 3 continents: Europe, Asia, Africa. So we're going to see a lot of diversity ethnically, culturally, religiously. So the Ottoman Empire is tolerant of religion. So if you are not Muslim, if you're Jewish, or especially Jewish and Christian living in the Ottoman Empire, you are allowed to continue practicing your religion. You're not forced to be Muslim. But with this toleration does come some penalties. So there is a tax on non-Muslim called the jizya tax, and that tax is not going to be, is going to be in place. So if you're Christian and Jewish, you face an extra tax from the government, as opposed to those who are Muslim. So you can imagine some people may convert so they don't have to pay the tax. Also, there's a different court. Muslims have a different court structure and a court system. If you get in trouble with the law or you're suing somebody, then non-Muslims do. So tolerant, yes. Equal, no. So don't confuse toleration with equality. We also have the Safavid Empire, which is in Persia, which is kind of on the border of modern-day Iraq, going up into the Caucasus here, all the way across to on the border of modern-day, or kind of into modern-day Pakistan a little bit. And this government is also going to be centralized under the Shah. They are also going to recruit military leaders, which is another theme of the gunpowder empires. And there's going to have local leaders and nobles in this region, which is huge. This is a large swath of land and over a lot of desert. This area is going to send military soldiers into the Shah, so they have kind of a centralized army. In terms of religious treatment, they're not as diverse as the Ottoman Empire. This area is as the center of trade throughout much of history, and because it's on 3 continents, much more diverse. Less diversity in the Ottoman Empire, or in the Safavid Empire, but their goal is to convert non-believers. So a little bit different. So they have kind of this idea of jihad, which is like converting, forced conversion, and almost like a religious war against those who don't want to convert. So they are Shia. They don't like Sunni. So you can imagine these 2 empires, which border each other, are going to go through many wars with each other and don't like each other. And that difference still exists today between, for example, Iran, modern-day Iran, and modern-day Saudi Arabia. Iran is a Shia country. Saudi Arabia is Sunni. Those are the 2 kind of central powers in the Middle East today. They are tolerant of outsiders. They don't ban outsiders. If you're a Christian merchant or a Buddhist merchant and you're coming through, they don't kill you. They don't say you have to convert to interact with us. They understand that this is an area along the Silk Road in the Indian Ocean trade. They need to promote trade. So they are tolerant of outsiders. Also, if you remember from the Silk Road trade, there are these areas here called the caravansaries. They're little trade centers kind of in the middle of the desert where you can stop along the way if you're a merchant. So we're promoting merchant activity. From 1750 to 1900, the Safavid has fallen by 1750, and Persia is really kind of decentralized, and they're losing land to outsiders as people are gaining power from 1750 to 1900. The Ottoman Empire, Europeans are industrializing during this period, and the Ottomans are slowly decreasing in power. They're losing land. If you check out what they had in 1700, which is everything in this peachish orange color, by 1914, they are down to just this piece right here, which is kind of modern-day Turkey into Syria and down into the Arabian Peninsula. They are often referred to as the sick man of Europe. They're losing land through war. They're losing land through nationalist movements as people are trying to break away and form their own country, which is another theme of this time period. They're going to try and reform themselves to industrialize, and the reforms are called the Tanzimat reforms. These are their attempts to industrialize. They're industrialize, westernize, modernize, all really the same thing. So they are going to try and modernize their military. They're going to use German ideas, bring in German soldiers, train us, train how to recruit, train how to have a standing army, force people to be in the military, which is called mandatory conscription. Change the legal system. We're going to make it everyone equal under the law, kind of a Western democratic enlightenment ideas, and also education. We're going to make it non-religious. It's almost a public school system in a sense, and open to all people regardless of social standing. That's very Western for this time period. There's a reaction to this, though. A new sultan eventually takes over, and he cancels all these reforms that were in place for a couple decades. And they cancel them. They're like, we're done. We're going back to the way things were. We're going to go back to this kind of strict religious ideology. And it's kind of too late because there's a group of people called the Young Turks who've grown up under these Tanzimat reforms, who like the idea of westernization, democracy, freedom, equal treatment under the law. And once you cancel that, this group of people are not going to be happy. This group of people, the Young Turks, so coming into the next time period, they're still around in the next time period because they're around in the late 1800s, early 1900s. World War I breaks out. The Ottoman Empire is on the Central Powers in World War I with Germany and Austria-Hungary, and they lose World War I. If you remember, one of the themes of World War I is the Treaty of Versailles and punishing the losers. So what they do is the winners, Britain and France, primarily Britain and France, decide to split up the Ottoman Empire into mandates, or basically into imperialized areas. So they take these areas that were under Ottoman control and they say, we're going to control them. The one exception to that is Turkey. The main area of the Ottoman Empire was Turkey. Turkey becomes independent and is going to be run by this group of people called the Young Turks, who are democratic, Western, industrialized. One of the main leaders is Kemal Ataturk. He and the Young Turks are going to allow or create westernized government in Turkey. So it's going to be one of the first countries in the Middle East to really become modernized, westernized for an extended period of time. The rest of this is going to be split up arbitrarily. It's a good word, just like randomly. So we're going to make this country Iraq. This is going to be Jordan. We have Syria up here. And the people who are in these countries are very diverse. So like, for example, coming back, the people who live in this part of Iraq are Shia. And these people over here are Sunni. So we have Sunnis and Shias in one country. When the Europeans are there, they control everything. But what's going to happen is, as we progress through the 20th century, is there's going to be a lot of violence between these two groups who are now in one country, as opposed to splitting them up and eventually having made them two countries or three countries, because there's another ethnic group called the Kurds up here. We put everyone together, and that's going to lead to violence, which is still going on in Iraq today, as there's a power struggle between these three groups. After World War II, there's independence for these mandate systems, which is going to lead to some issues. We also have the creation of Israel, just kind of two examples. We have the creation of Israel, which is a nationalist Jewish movement called Zionism, where people wanted their own homeland in the Holy Land. The problem is there's people who live there called Palestinians, so there's going to lead to tension between the Palestinians and the Israelis. We also have the Iranian Revolution, which takes place here in Persia, which is primarily Shia, which if you go back here, you know they want to convert non-believers. They're not necessarily tolerant of other religions. And this Iranian Revolution is going to be led by a Shia religious leader called the Ayatollah. And the Ayatollah is going to overthrow a corrupt back U.S. kind of fake democratic government. And the Ayatollah overthrows them to create a anti-Western, anti-outsider, anti-Sunni government system. So that's a quick 800-year history of a major region of the world. Hope it helps. Got any questions? Let me know.